Hello students, all of you are most welcome on my channel that is Liberty Solution. In today's video, I will be discussing about chapter 15th of class 12 NCERT CBSE board biology. The name of the chapter is Biodiversity and its conservation. This video is very useful for your school examination, CBSE board examination, as well as NEET examination. Like, comment, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe my channel to get many more. So let us start this chapter, that is chapter 15, Biodiversity and its conservation. So this chapter is biodiversity. We're discussing about biodiversity and the conservation. So when we'll be discussing this topic, we'll be discussing levels of biodiversity, number of species on Earth, patterns of biodiversity, loss of biodiversity, and biodiversity conservation. So we'll be dealing all these topics one by one. So let us start with levels of biodiversity. First, let us understand what is biodiversity. Biodiversity is the diversity of biological organisms, ranging from cellular macromolecules to biomes level. There was a person, his name was Edward Wilson. He popularized the term biodiversity. The term biodiversity was given by Edward Wilson. So, what are different levels of biodiversity? So, here we'll be studying three levels: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecological diversity. Now, what do we mean by genetic diversity? First one is genetic diversity. Diversity shown by single species at genetic level, that is called genetic diversity. Example, Rauwolfia vomitorio. It is a Himalayan plant. So genetic variation in the concentration of chemical reserpine. So this Rauwolfia vomitoria, this is a plant. It is present in Himalayan region. It shows genetic variation. In what? Creating variation in potency and concentration of chemical reserpine. India has more than 50,000 different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango. So different strains of rice, how many? 50,000 different strains of rice. And how many varieties are meant? Around 1,000, like Pusa, Surya, Kesar, Alfonso, Neelam, Chausa, Malika, Pusa, Karanchio, Vanraj, Hybrid, Leban 2, so Totapuri. These are some of the varieties of mango. This is called genetic diversity. Then second is species diversity. Diversity at species level, like Western Ghat. This is the Western Ghat of India. This is Eastern Ghat of India. This is Himalayan region, and this is Hindu Kush region. So these Western Ghats have greater amphibian species diversity than Eastern Ghat. So here, Western Ghat amphibians diversity is more than Eastern Ghat. This is what species diversity. Then there is ecological diversity. Ecological diversity means diversity as ecosystem level. Example, in India, there are different types of ecosystem. So next level of diversity is ecological diversity. Here, diversity at ecosystem level. Like in India, there are desert is there, rainforests are there, mangroves are there, coral reefs are there, wetlands are there. These are the coral reefs. This is wetland. Estuaries are there, and alpine meadow are seen. These are alpine meadows. So these are what ecosystem, yeah, we call ecological diversity. Now we'll be discussing about number of species on Earth, that is global species diversity. There is one organization that is called IUCN, International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So sometime question will be there. What is the full form of IUCN? So International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. According to IUCN, this data is what collected in 2004. More than 1.5 million species are described so far. According to Robert May Global Estimate, the person who have collected this data, his name is what? Robert May. So Robert May Global Estimate about 7 million species would have on Earth. There may be 7 million species on Earth. We considered the species to be discovered in the tropic, that is only 22% of total species have been recorded so far. So till now only 22% of the total species are recorded out of 7 million species. Animals are more diverse, about 70% than plant, including plant and fungi. So animals, so more diversity than plant and fungi. Among animal, insect are most rich species group. So insect are most species rich group. So this is insect. They are most rich. That means out of every 10 animals, 7 are insects. Number of fungi, this fungi, is more than the combined total of species of fishes, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. So these fungi are more than these fishes, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. So sometimes the question is here, it will be written A, B, C, D. So you have to identify. So here, this is largest group is of animal is what animal imam is what insect, followed by then this mollusks, then crustaceans, so other animals, and fishes, vertebrate, largest group is fishes, then reptiles, then birds, mammals. So you have to remember this chart and you have to label this. Among plant, fungi, if they are taken in plant, they are the having highest number, followed by angiosperm, then algae, then series, mosses, lichens. Now we'll be discussing about biodiversity in India. India has only 2.4% of the world land area, but 8.1 of the species diversity. So there is India is having great species diversity. India is one of the 12 mega diversity countries. So there are 12 mega diversity countries. So India is one of them. Nearly 45,000 species of plant and twice as many of animal. Means around 90,000 species of animal and 45,000 species of plants are present in India. Applying May's global estimate, India would have more than 1 lakh plant species and 3 lakh animal species. Biologists are not sure about total number of prokaryotic species because conventional taxonomic methods are not suitable for identifying microbial species. In laboratory, many species cannot be cultured. Now, next topic is latitudinal gradient. So, species diversity decreases from equator to the poles. This is equator. If we move towards pole, this side, north side, or south side, the diversity will decrease. Tropic means latitudinal range of 23.5 north to 23.5 south. Means from this region to this region. This region have more species than temperate and polar region. So this is the area which is having more species than temperate and polar region. So let's discuss some examples of latitudinal gradient. Number of bird species. Colombia, it is near equator, is having around about 14,000 species. India, it is also in tropic, it is having more than 1,200 species. New York, around 40° north, it is having 105 species only. Greenland is located at 71° north, it is having 56 species. So tropical forest region like Ecuador has up to 10 times of vascular plant species as compared to the temperate forest region like Midwest of USA. Tropical forest region like Ecuador has up to 10 times of vascular plant species as compared to the temperate forest region like the Midwest of USA. Tropical Amazonian rainforest, South America, is the greatest biodiversity on Earth. Number of species in Amazonian rainforest. In Amazonian rainforest, there are more than 40,000 species of plant, 3,000 species of fishes, 1,300 birds, 427 mammals, 427 amphibians, 378 species of reptile, and more than 125,000 invertebrates. Reason for highest biodiversity means species richness in the tropic is tropics had more evolutionary time. This tropical region, they are having what? More evolutionary time. Here, this region, relatively constant environment, less seasonal vary fluctuation. They receive more solar energy, which contribute to greater productivity. This is the reason why the number of species in the tropics are more than temperate and Arctic zone. Now we'll be discussing about species area relationship. This relationship was studied by Humboldt. According to study of Alexander von Humboldt in South American jungles, within a region, species richness increases with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. Means if you are exploring more area, you will find more species richness, but it is up to certain limit. It is having certain limits. The relationship between species richness are gives a rectangular hyperbola. Here, if there is what graph is plotted between two factor area and species richness. So if the graph is, if we study this graph, as area increases, there is increasing species richness, but after some time, keep on increasing the area, there will be no increase in what? Species richness. So when a rectangular hyperbola graph will be obtained, this shows the relationship between species richness and area, and that is S is equal to CAZ, where S is equal to species richness, A is area, C is y-intercept, and Z is slope of the line, that is regression coefficient. On a logarithmic scale, the relationship is a straight line. The equation is log S is equal to log C, Z log A. So sometimes the question will be there. So the which type of species area relationship shows which type of this graph? You have to mention it is a rectangular hyperbola. Write the equation S is equal to CAZ. What you have to explain what is S, what is C, what is A, what is Z. So sometimes question will be there like this is written. So here it will be A will be written, here B will be written, here C will be written, here D will be written. At some point will be given, you have to label all these things. So in this way you can solve such questions. Generally, relation between species richness and an area gives a rectangular hyperbola. Generally, for a small area, the Z value is 0.1 to 0.2. For a small area, the value of Z is 0.1 to 0.2. But for larger area, entire continent, slope of the line is steeper. So Z value will become 0.6 to 1.2. For frugivorous birds and mammals in the tropical forest of the different continents, the Z value is 1.15. According to David Tillman, plots with more species show less year-to-year variation in total biomass. The area, if the biodiversity is more, there will be less variation in total biomass. Increased diversity contribute to higher productivity. If diversity is more, then productivity will be more. It is essential for ecosystem health and survival of human race. Next is Rivet Popper hypothesis. It was given by Paul Ehrlich. or Ulrich. He said that it is an analogy used to understand the importance of biodiversity. See, all these species are interconnected. If there is only one species become extinct, it will be causing damage to this problem, this ecosystem. And out of this, there are some key species. If there is a what extinction of key species, it will create a great loss. So it is proposed by Stanford ecologist Paul Ehrlich. What he said, he compared in an airplane ecosystem, all parts are joined together using many rivet here species. Like screws are there. So here there are all points are connected with what? Species. If passenger pop or rivet extinction of a species, it may not affect flight safety functioning of the ecosystem. But as more and more rivets are removed, the plane becomes dangerously weak. Loss of rivet on the wing, key species that drive major ecosystem function is more dangerous to flight safety than loss of few rivet on the seat or window inside the plane. Now, we'll be discussing about loss of biodiversity. According to IUCN Red List, it was prepared in the year 2004, says that 784 species, 338 vertebrate, 359 invertebrate, and 87 plants were extinct in last 500 years. Example, dodo, which is present in Mauritius, quagga, it is present in this is quagga, present in Africa, thylacine, this is thylacine, present found in Australia, stellar sea cows, present in Russia, and three subspecies, Bali, Java, Caspian of tiger. They become extinct within 500 years. So this red list is prepared by what? IUCN. So dodo become 27 species disappeared in the last 20 years. More than 15,500 species face the threat of extinction. This is a quota. Thylacine and stellar sea cow, 12% bird, 23% mammals, 32% amphibians, and 31% gymnosperms species face the threat of extinction. The current species extinction rate is 100 to 1,000 times faster than in the pre-human time. If this trend continues, nearly half of the all species on Earth might be extinct within next 100 years. These are three different varieties of tiger: Bali tiger, Java tiger, and Caspian tiger. Now, what is the impact of this extinction? If the species are becoming extinct, it will be having side effect. That will be what? Decline in plant production, environmental perturbations such as drought, increased variability in the ecosystem, possessive processes such as plant productivity, water use, and pest and disease cycle. It will change. So now we'll be discussing loss of biodiversity, causes, the evil quadrant. Four evil quadrant. There are four evil quadrants. First is habitat loss and fragmentation is first evil quadrant. Second evil quadrant is over-exploitation. Third, alien species invasion. And fourth one is what? Co-extinction. Now we'll be discussing each one by one. Habitat loss and fragmentation. It is one of the most important cause of loss of biodiversity. Tropical rainforest lost from 14% to 6%. Thousands of hectares of rainforest are being lost within hours. Deforestation of Amazon, fragmentation of habitat. The Amazon rainforest is being cut for cultivating soya beans or for conversion of grassland for cattle. They are being cut so that human being will start cultivating soya bean or they will be growing grass for animals grazing. Fragmentation badly affects animals requiring large territories and migratory animals. Earlier, there was free flow or free exchange of animal from this area to this area. But now road is constricted. But now animal will not be able to come from this area to this area because blockade is created. Over-exploitation. Stiller sea cow, passenger pigeon. This is passenger pigeon. Extinct due to over-exploitation. Alien species invasion. So this is an invasive species coming to this area. Alien species cause decline or extinction of indigenous species. Some examples of alien species invasion. The Nile perch, this is Nile perch, introduced into Lake Victoria, East Africa, caused extinction of more than 200 species of lead fish in the lake. This is Lake Victoria. Earlier, this Nile perch was not there. When they were introduced, it was responsible for extinction of more than 200 species of cichlid fish. These are cichlid fish. They became extinct because of introduction of Nile perch. So Nile perch is what? Alien. Invasive weeds species like carrot grass, this is carrot grass, known as Parthenium. Lantana and water hyacinth, this is lantana, this is water hyacinth. That is, a water hyacinth is also known as Ecornia, caused damage to our native species. Illegal introduction of African catfish, Clarius garipinus. This is what African catfish. It was introduced in Indian rivers. For aquaculture is posing a threat to indigenous catfishes in our rivers. Now, next term is what? Co-extinction. What do you mean by co-extinction? When a species becomes extinct, the species associated with it also extinct. Because there is one species, there are mutual relation between two species. If one species is becoming extinct, the other species which was totally dependent on that species that will also become extinct. This is called what? Co-extinction. So extinction of parasite when host is extinct. In co-evolved plant pollinator or mutualism, extinction of one causes extinction of other. Like this is vase and this is a flower. This vase will disappear, will become extinct. This flower will be also, this plant will also become extinct. So it is the moral responsibility of each and every person and the people of all the inhabitants of our great planet Earth, we have to preserve our biodiversity. Now we'll be discussing about biodiversity conservation. Why there is a reason for conservation? So reason for conservation, narrow utilitarian arguments, broadly utilitarian arguments, and ethical arguments. Three types of arguments are given for the conservation of biodiversity. What do you mean by narrow utilitarian arguments? Human derived economic benefit from nature such as food, firewood, fiber, construction material, industrial product, tannins, lubricant, dyes, resin, perfumes, and medicine. So to get all these products, we have to conserve our nature. If we are not conserving, we will not be able to get these materials. More than 25% of drugs are derived from plants. Around 25,000 species of plants have medicinal value. Therefore, for narrow utilitarian purpose, also we have to conserve our biodiversity. Second, broadly utilitarian arguments. Biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services like Amazon forest produce 20% of total oxygen in the Earth atmosphere. So we have to preserve biodiversity to get what? Oxygen. Pollination through bees, bumblebees, birds, and bats. They are responsible for pollination and production. Therefore, we have to conserve our biodiversity. And we also derive aesthetic pleasure in natural settings, natural environment. So therefore also we have to conserve our biodiversity. Third is ethical arguments. Every species has an intrinsic value. We have a moral duty to care for their well-being. Now, there are two different types of biodiversity conservation. One is in situ conservation, and that is ex situ conservation. In situ conservation is also known as on-site conservation, and ex situ conservation is also known as off-site conservation. Now, what is in situ conservation or on-site conservation? The conservation of genetic resources within natural or human-made ecosystem in which they occur. It includes protected areas such as national park, sanctuaries, biosphere reserves, cultural landscape, natural monuments. In this way, we can do what? In situ conservation or on-site conservation. India has 14 biosphere reserves, 19 national parks, and 48 wildlife sanctuaries for the conservation of plants and animals. So what is national park? Here, strictly reserved for welfare of wildlife where private ownership, cultivation, grazing, and other things are prohibited. So in national parks, private ownership, cultivation, grazing of animals, these are prohibited. Example, Erivikulam National Park in Kerala. This is Erivikulam National Park, where human activities are banned. Then what is sanctuaries? Sanctuary is also an example of in situ conservation. Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary. This is what it's an image of Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary. Here protection is given only to the animals. Collection of timber, minor forest products, and private ownership are allowed so long as they do not harm the animals. Example, Periyar Wildlife Sanctuary in Kerala. This is example of sanctuary. Here, human intervention is allowed, but without damaging animals. Then biosphere reserve. Areas of land are coastal ecosystem for conservation and sustainable use, like Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Sacred group or sacred forest. Forest fragments which are communally protected based on religious belief. Example, sacred groups in Khasi and Jensia Hill in Meghalaya. These are what sacred groups. Aravalli Hills of Rajasthan. Western Ghat region of Karnataka and Maharashtra. Sarguja, Chanda, and Bastar area of Madhya Pradesh. These are what sacred group, sacred forest. Now, XII conservation or offsite conservation. It is the conservation of organisms outside their habitat. Example, genetic resource center. Here, there are different seeds are there, different varieties of animals are here, plants, and semen containers are also there. It is the conservation of organisms outside their habitat, like in the zoo. Example, genetic resource center, zoological parks, wildlife safari parks. These are some of the example of ex situ conservation. It is botanical garden, gene bank, cryopreservations. Now hot spot. Next topic is hot spot. These are the regions with very high species richness. With very high species richness, high degree of endemism, species confined only to a specific region but most threatened. There are 34 hotspots in the world, and out of these 34 hotspots, three hotspots cover India's biodiversity region. Western Ghat, this is Western Ghat, and Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma, and Himalaya. These are the Western Ghats. Western Ghats. These are the regions with where all hot spots. This is Himalaya. These are also hot spots. All hot spots together cover only less than 2% of the Earth's land area, but the species richness is extremely high. Protection of hotspot reduce the ongoing extinction by 30%. Now, not only at national level, at international level as well, efforts are being made to for the conservation of biodiversity. So there was one summit was held, that is for Earth Summit. It was held at Rio de Janeiro. It is there in Brazil. Here, objective of the Earth Summit, that is Convention on Biological Diversity, the conservation of biodiversity. They have focused, there was three major objectives: conservation of biodiversity, sustainable use of biodiversity, sharing of benefits arising from genetic resources. Then second World Summit was held in Johannesburg, 2002. It is there in South Africa. The World Summit on Sustainable Development held in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa. 190 countries pledged to reduce the current rate of biodiversity loss. This much about this chapter. Like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe my channel to get many more such videos. Thank you very much.